Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4 is a Japanese role-playing game, or JRPG, developed by Atlus and released on the PlayStation 2 in 2008. Persona 4 takes place in a fictional Japanese countryside town called Inaba. You play the role of a player named Protagonist who left a large city to live with his uncle and niece for a year. The protagonist investigates a series of murders in the town with a group of friends. During a rainy night, a person will appear on the Midnight Channel, soon to be murdered. The characters then enter the TV world by physically walking through a television. Together, the player and friends attempt to save the person appearing on the Midnight Channel by defeating their persona or other self. This video will look into the Japanese honorifics used in the English translation of Persona 4 and into any discrepancies in the translation. And now, on to Billy to give us an explanation on honorifics.
Nearly every language uses some form of honorifics. Even English uses honorifics to some degree. An honorific is defined as a title or term of respect, but usually we refer to them as titles in English. These titles are used to honor and show respect to the person addressed. Some examples in English are Mr., Mrs., Sir, Madam, Professor, Doctor, President, and King or Queen. Some other examples of languages with some honorifics besides titles are Spanish that uses tu and usted, and French which uses tu and vous. Korean also uses a lot of honorifics in both titles and sentence structure, but Japanese uses even more honorifics. Japanese consists of 3 different honorific languages: polite, respectful, and humble. Polite language can be used to refer to one's own actions or those of other people. Respectful language is used when talking to a superior or a customer, and humble language is used when referring to yourself or others in one's in-group. In addition to this, Japanese uses many title honorifics. Some general examples are san, kun, chan, and sama. Though typically a title is used if it is known by the speaker, such as sensei, which means teacher, senpai, which is someone older than you usually in high school or at a company, bucho, which is a department manager, and sacho, which is a company president. In Japan, there's a large divide between politeness between people of different age groups. For example, someone 1 year older than someone else does not have to use an honorific, and someone younger may have to use san or senpai. People of the same age group also have a bit of mobility on how they can refer to each other, like using the family name of the person without an honorific, or using something more casual like kun or chan. Even family titles have honorifics embedded in them. Usually it is san, such as otou-san, meaning father, or oka-san, meaning mother, but chan is also used when a parent or adult refers to a child, or a young child refers to their elder sibling, such as one-chan, meaning eldest daughter, and oni-san, meaning eldest son. Even the o at the beginning of these words is an honorific prefix. Most of these words do not translate into English very well, and the honorific is usually lost in translation. This is why we've decided to analyze the script of a game named Persona 4 that retains the honorifics in the English translation, to study how they are used in relation to the original script, as well as analyze why they are retained in the first place. From here we'll talk a little bit about our research method.
Saki-senpai is supposedly the one who discovered that body.
I wonder if that's why she looked so down. She doesn't seem to be at school today either.
Huh? Hey, Yukiko, are you helping out at the inn today, too?
Things are really out of hand right now. I'm sorry.
Is it just me, or does Yukiko-san seem way stressed out today?
I guess they're running her ragged.
To obtain data on the use of honorifics in Persona 4, we compared the Japanese and English versions of the script from an estimated 5 hours of gameplay, and recorded each occurrence or omission of different honorifics across that period of time. This particular game was chosen for our research because of its use of everyday modern Japanese life and culture, The game uses this everyday setting to provide relatable, down-to-earth development of characters and their relationships, as well as to starkly contrast against the bizarre paranormal areas and events within the story. The player is put into the life of a high school student moving to a small town, where they experience many different kinds of connections with a variety of power structures and levels of formality. As you see here, we have a list of the honorifics, and here in the column titled Japanese, that's how many times that honorific is used in the Japanese version of the script. Now where it says honorifics English, that is how often those honorifics are used in the English version of the script. And then when it says without English is how many times that honorifics used in the Japanese version are not used in the English version. So you can see here, the honorific Chan used 11 times in the Japanese script, and then it's used 8 times in the English script, but omitted 3 times in the English script. Similar with the honorifics Kun. With San, we have an interesting case here because it's used 24 times in the Japanese script, but here in the English script, it's used 29 times, but also omitted 21 times. And this seems to be the case where certain characters would address others using their first name, or possibly their last name, and adding the San honorific, whereas in the Japanese script, they would simply be addressing characters by their last name. Here we can see the Senpai honorific, and it's used most of the time in the English script, only omitted twice. On the other hand, we have the Sensei honorific, which is used almost as much, but in the English script is dropped all but 4 times. Here's Sama, a rarer honorific, normally used for more esteemed positions, only used twice in the Japanese script, not used at all in the English script. We also have instances of words with honorifics being translated into their direct words or titles. For example, here with Chan used in words, we have the words Oni-chan or One-chan, which would mean older brother or sister, respectively. San used in words, we have Oto-san, Oba-san, Fukuro-san, which would mean father and older lady or mother. And then Sama used in words would be Kisama, which is a variant of you.
Untranslatability is a property of a text or of any utterance in one language for which no equivalent text or utterance can be found in another language. When translating honorifics from Japanese, how does a translator approach words like senpai with no English equivalent? A translator can consider the genre of the source and target texts and decide whether to omit, come up with a fuzzy translation, or simply borrow. As Persona 4 is a relatively informal text genre, borrowing seems to be okay here. It seems natural with the surrounding Japanese setting. In translation, borrowing is just as it sounds, taking a word or phrase from the source text and injecting it into the target text. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of using borrowing relates to creating specific stylistic effects, such as introducing the flavor of the foreign culture into a translation. Although players of a Japanese or anime-style game may come to expect use of honorifics in a Japanese setting, someone with no prior knowledge of the genre may be left in the dark. So this leads us to, if honorifics don't translate well, why keep them at all? And for this question, Billy has a theory.
The theory that I want to discuss is the theory of maintaining culture through dialogue. This essentially means, because the game is set in Japan, the translator opted to keep the honorifics to maintain the Japanese culture that the honorifics represent. While there is no concrete evidence for this theory, there are other examples of games such as the Yakuza series and other Persona games that all take place in Japan and maintain honorifics to some degree. Other popular games such as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest do not use honorifics, but the settings for the games are in fantasy worlds, so they are good examples to support that keeping honorifics is due to the setting being in Japan. Another interesting series to note is the Shin Megami Tensei series, developed by the same developer that developed the Persona series, which is also set in Japan, but in a post-apocalyptic Japan, so this alternate world could be the reason for the honorifics not being used.
In conclusion, we can see that the inclusion or exclusion of honorifics in this set of data points towards honorifics being kept in the English version as a marker for formalities or power dynamics that might be lost in translation if the honorifics were not present. For example, the sensei honorific was often dropped because the formality and respect a student would show towards a teacher is recognizable without it, and a similar power structure exists in English-speaking cultures. On the other hand, the senpai honorific was usually kept to mark the power structure between senior and junior in Japanese culture that may not be as prevalent in English-speaking cultures. As you can see, how linguistic elements in games are translated can affect the kind of experience they provide. I hope you enjoyed watching, and with winter break coming, maybe now's the perfect time to see for yourself what Persona is all about.